Welcome back to another episode of Susan Lopresti Wellness, Mind, Body, and Soul. This is the podcast where we explore the highs, the lows, and everything in between when it comes to a woman's life, her health, and all aspects of navigating the midlife landscape. I'm your host, Susan Lopresti, and today I have a special guest with me. Her name is Elle Chase. Let me tell you a little bit about Elle. She is a certified life coach, intimacy, and relationship coach. She's a board certified sexologist and a multi certified sexuality educator. She has trained with some of the most respected programs in the United States, including the San Francisco Sex Information Sex Educator Training Program and the Kinsey Institute of Human Sexuality Intensive Program. Elle is a certified sexologist through the American Board of Sexology and the American College of Sexologists International, as well as a certified life coach through Lumina Life Coaching and ICF-accredited program. Elle is a member of the LGBTQIA plus community and primarily works individually with women, femmes plus NB, GNC individuals, and with all genders in relationships of two or more. Her intimacy, sex, and relationship work focuses on empowerment, relational skills, empathy, reducing shame, and addressing the intersection of body image and sexuality. As a life and executive coach, she draws on 25 years of experience as a film executive, producer, and five-time business owner across multiple industries. Her coaching approach integrates various modalities, including somatics, vagus nerve regulation, parts work /IFS, and mindfulness and meditation. Over the past 15 years, her writings have been featured in Teen Vogue, Cosmopolitan, and the Huffington Post, among others. And she authored the highly regarded Curvy Girl Sex, 101 Body Positive Positions to Empower Your Sex Life. Elle is also a sought-after expert, frequently quoted in international media, including the Today Show, Nighttime, the New York Times, USA Today, and the New York Post. Additionally, her insights have been featured on top-rated podcasts and radio shows such as Sex with Emily, Dan Savage's Lovecast, and Loveline. Elle's advocacy work includes founding and serving as the executive director of the Los Angeles Academy of Sex Education, which is an organization that provided community-wide sex education classes taught by leading experts. She also served on the advisory board of Educate Us, an organization that's dedicated to advancing progressive sex education policy nationwide. Her coaching practice is rooted in being trauma aware, social and racial justice, informed, LGBTQIA plus affirming, kink friendly, fat positive, intersectionally feminist, and a disability advocate. She is also honored to work with clients in the CNM and SW communities, as well as those exploring alternative relationship dynamics. So without further ado, let's welcome Elle Chase to my podcast. Elle, thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm really curious how you got started in this line of work as far as being a sex therapist. And I guess that's basically your title, right? A
Well,
sex
it's sex coach because
sex.
therapy and coaching completely different. They
Oh,
can work in tandem and complement each other, but they are different. Therapy, you're working on the past and you're really getting in and digging deep on why you feel the way you feel, and it's more of a long-term thing. Coaching is goal specific, and coaching assumes that you've already done that work. so that you're coming with a goal or an area that you'd like to work on, and we just work on that. So sex coach, I'm a sexologist, the American Board of Sexology, and I'm a sex educator. I was a sex educator for most of my career, and I came into it after a marriage that ended, and I was not sexually satisfied my entire life. I didn't know why people had sex. I didn't understand what was so enjoyable about it. And I was watching this episode of True Blood back in the day, the HBO show about the vampires and all of that. And the two main characters had this great chemistry. And there was this time where they got together and consummated their love. And suddenly something sort of came over me and I just started crying. And I realized that I had never felt this passion. And suddenly that just became my driving force. And it really sort of knocked me into myself. And I soon was out of my marriage and out sort of experimenting and started a website, a blog on Tumblr when you could put adult stuff on Tumblr of sensual images or porn or whatever that I shared with my lover. And it was just supposed to be for us. And people found it and they liked it and they started sharing it. And then it became this big thing.
So let me go back for a second. So you got divorced and then you met someone else and
Yeah, I met someone else, and it was immediately just a physical attraction, and then we just got more involved, but he was the one that really sort of helped me work out my sexuality and my sensual self. So while I had this website, people kept emailing me questions about sex, and I'm like, "I don't know, I have a freaking website." I've, like, put images of people having sex. But I would help them, I would research it, and I'd send them science-backed, evidence-based answers, and I just sort of caught the bug for it and got certified and just sort of generated into what I'm doing now.
so let me ask you, let's go back to your marriage for a second.
Yeah.
Were you in love with your husband or did you find him sexually attractive or was it that his like what was it that wasn't really
I was in love with my husband. I had never experienced what it was like to be in a sexually desirous relationship. So I had sex with him and it was sort of just for him, or it was to connect, or it wasn't necessarily for pleasure. There was no interest in finding different ways of pleasuring each other. I just had no idea. Like, I didn't even know simple things that just happen after sex because I was very sexually unexperienced, even though I was 33. So yeah, that was it. It wasn't a question of attraction, so to speak. It was just I didn't even know what I liked or that I even liked sex. I described myself as neuter at the time.
and then someone else came along and that changed everything.
Changed everything. Changed everything.
So what was that spark or what was it that made that change? Was it the person, your feelings for them, or the way he performed? And to
Was
me,
It was the person, actually.
mhm,
I found him, and I don't recommend this for anybody, but for me, I found him on Twitter,
mhm.
and I was role playing, sort of like dirty role playing in sort of Shakespeare's times, because I'm an Anglophile and I love Shakespeare, and my name was Lady Cheeky, and he was in the court of some sort. And so he sort of courted me, and then we connected intellectually, which is the way to get to me. And he desired me. And the great thing about it is, at the time, I was very heavy. And so I had never experienced anyone being sexually attracted to me, really, because I wasn't the ideal body weight. But this man didn't seem to care. And he, he just was very sexual and really wanted to bring me out of my shell in a very honest way. Now, I had him checked out, so I knew that when I met him, I wasn't walking into something.
Right.
Let's say that. I ended up being with him for 2.5 years, I think, and really changed my way of thinking about my sexuality and my body. Not necessarily him, but allowed me the space to do that.
But you're no longer together.
Oh, no. That was years ago.
Okay. So who's your ideal client? What do you see the most of as far as women? Are they younger? Because my podcast is really about midlife women, and I
Yeah.
know women in midlife have a whole host of issues going on when it comes to sex.
Yeah,
Because
they
so
do.
who comes to you for help?
I tend to attract women over 30 and a predominantly women just out of a relationship, out of a marriage, empty nesters, women in their 40s and 50s, perimenopausal, menopausal, who, for one reason or another, has never made their sexual self a priority or even recognized it or had no desire to look into it. And now they want to, and they don't know where to start. And they don't know if what they're feeling is dirty or if it's okay. And even if they feel like it's okay, like, what do I do with this energy? What do I do? How do I go out and get it and be true to myself and my values and also be able to explore? So, there's so many different paths, and it is so, especially with the book All Fours by Miranda July, this great novel about perimenopause and coming into your sexuality. Yeah, it's a great book. And her book sort of exploded. And it's because there are all these women now who are finding that it's okay to delve into that part of themselves and find that they feel more like who they're supposed to be when they include their sexual self, whatever that may be.
Mhm. Yeah, I especially find it interesting as far as menopausal women because a lot of the women that I work with or that I interview um, say the complete opposite, that they're no longer interested in sex. I think also it has a lot to do with that they've been married for so
Mhm.
long. And, when you go into menopause, there's this whole change literally in
Yeah,
your psychic, everything. You don't want to be
yeah,
nurturing and taking care of other people. You become, I don't want to use the word selfish, but truly, I mean,
okay.
yeah,
It's okay to be selfish. Yeah, I think that's the that's the initial place we go because that's what we've been told. And so when we start to find that our sexual desire has changed and our turn-ons have changed and what we want has changed, we tend to look at it as we don't want it anymore or we're not driven by sex anymore. When if we look a little bit closer and delve a little bit deeper, we can see that if I'll do an exercise with someone, so like you don't feel like sex right now, but describe the perfect mate for you or the perfect sexual mate for you. If that person came along, would you want sex? If if this person was offering you, wild, kinky, one night stand type of sex, would you be into it? Or are you more interested in this type of sex? It's not an either or. Sometimes, I mean, I'm postmenopausal and I feel I can go without perfectly fine. But I recognize that when I meet someone who meets me where I am personally, intellectually, and with humor
yeah.
and is respectful, those are the 3 things that tend to work for me, and I'm just like a schoolgirl, you know? I think as we get older, even if we don't realize it, we're cataloging what works and what doesn't work, what we like, what we don't like. Like, I can go into a restaurant and say, "No, I don't want this, I want that." "Well, why don't you try it?" "No, I've tried it. I don't want that. I want this." There
Right.
are certain things that you just know about yourself and you know yourself better. So,
Yeah.
I would challenge people that if they don't want sex, that's completely valid and okay. But the women that come to me would like to have sex again, would like to have an active sexual relationship, even if it wasn't with somebody else, even with just themselves.
What age group do you see mostly?
Mostly like over 40.
Over 40.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess each client is different, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They're all very, very different and respond to different things. That's what makes it so exciting.
So I'm sure that you also have women that come to you that say that they want to have sex, but it's painful, or maybe their partner wants to have sex with them, but they have no desire. And so, what do you do in a situation like that?
Well,
Where they really-
it's a very unique situation with everybody because you have to take into account the relationship, the reasons why they want to have sex, their beliefs about sex, what used to turn them on, what happened for them not to want sex anymore. Is it just menopause? Is it just, if it's painful, have they been checked out by a healthcare provider? There's so many things you have to go through in order to focus in on what the real problem is or the real issue is.
Right.
There's a lot of people whose partner really wants to have more sex than they do. And I think what really works with my clients is really sitting down and defining what kind of sex do you want to have? Because you could be just having sex and you're like, "Okay, well, this isn't but what do you really want?" And defining that, and then hopefully there's a partner who wants to meet them halfway.
Mhm.
Throughout our entire lives, our turn-ons and turn-offs change, and it also changes with the situation. I mean, the world right now is kind of a dumpster fire, so, it's an all of everything situation. We had our lives, were stressful enough, and now it's even more stressful, and so it's prioritizing pleasure and not necessarily sex. So it takes it out of the context of sex itself, which often has a lot of preconceived notions and pressure to it, and having an evening of pleasure, something where orgasm isn't necessarily the goal, where connection might be the goal, or trying something new, or doing something exciting, or having a night by yourself where you just explore yourself and different places that maybe no one has touched before that, could be the inside of your elbows. It could be your ankles, toes. It's getting to know that part of you so that you can begin to recognize what is a turn on for you when your desire is low for different reasons as opposed to hormonal.
Right. Do men come to you? Do you ever have
I
men?
don't see men currently, but I do see men when they are in couples or thruples.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think I have more to offer women in this
Couples
area.
or what did you say?
Thruples. So
So a threesome?
a threesome, people who are polyamorous who have more than one relationship. There's also people who are couples who have opened their relationship. They found that that is a way to get their needs met. So I see all of those types of couples or
Interesting.
throuples or more. Yeah.
I have to go back to a menopausal woman. You're in a marriage, let's say, and you've
Mhm.
been married for 40 years.
Mhm.
And your husband still wants sex and is very much into having sex. And the woman just has no desire whatsoever. Maybe she's gained weight, so she doesn't feel sexy. She sees herself a little bit older. Sex is painful. How do you have a couple come together where they could satisfy each other, but yet not feel like they're compromising their own
Right.
desires?
It's finding the common goals. So I do work a lot with women with body image issues. I used to be 150 pounds heavier. For most of my life, I was like that. And I was able to find my sexual self when I was 275 pounds. And so any sort of body image issue, I work with people about that. But aside from that, it really does come down to the differences between the two. If If you can't come to an agreement, then we have to look at alternatives and see how you feel about alternatives, like opening up the relationship. Some people feel like, I will never do that. I will never do that. And I'm too jealous a person, or I just don't think that that is for me. And that's fine. But then you have to make that decision of, here is my partner who I love very much, where sex is very important to them and it's not important to me. How can I help them out in this situation? What feels right to me? And working with the partner and saying, what would work for you? And if they can't come together on it, then it's usually time to see someone who is going to work within a therapeutic model.
Mhm.
So, a sex therapist who can really dig deep. If they can't come to an agreement or they don't seem to want to split up, obviously, or they don't want to live separately in those different feelings. But, sometimes there is more room for compromise than we would think. So, if the woman you just described to me, someone with body image issues, someone with, zero desire and drive, maybe if her partner was more able to make her feel desired or help her in that way, maybe if she could find ways to make herself feel more desirable in the body she has now, so that's body image work.
Mhm.
What about, maybe you don't feel like having sex, but do you feel like you want to express yourself and your love for your partner? Do you feel like, how would you like to connect with your partner intimately? If it's not physical, what do you like? What makes you feel good? And seeing where there's some commonality, because even in something that doesn't seem like it's going to work, like get together, this is the ridiculous idea that grows into something else, but you know, even just making a date to snuggle on the couch and watch a favorite movie once a week might seem silly and might seem pedestrian or really, um, packed. But from that might come some realizations. Wow, I really like this. When you were stroking my arm, I got a little turned on. I didn't get wet and I didn't get, but let's go in that direction a little bit. Sometimes you have to start from the beginning.
Yeah.
And if there's pain, there's lubes, but also seeing your doctors to know that it's not something that needs to be dealt with medically.
Right. Right. Any final thoughts that you'd like to leave with?
Yeah, I think that if anyone's listening to this and they feel like there's just no place for them in the sexual world and they want to have a place. Because, like I said, if you don't want sex, that is absolutely fine. But if they want to, I would encourage them to read a book called Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski.
Right.
It talks about different types of people who react to different types of arousal, the arousal and desire response.
Mhm.
And then there's a book by Cindy Darnell called, oh, what is it? I know this book so well, and yet right now I can't think of the title. It's, Sex When You Don't Feel Like It.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, it's right to the point, and, those are 2 really great places to start.
Interesting.
But if you want coaching, you can come see me.
Right. How can women find you?
I'm at ellchase.com, ELLE, chase.com, and you can contact me on the site.
Okay. And where are you located?
I'm located in New York State.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So